This is important. Those are bigger than 19s. Well, John, want to let him on having a good week. No boats. That's still. Yeah, control. I know it's control. Was that Joel and I? I know. They didn't go last minute.
Hey, Mark.
Hi, Gene. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I just gotta find my glasses before we start here.
Joseph, you out there?
I'm here, Gene.
She would be official if you weren't.
You see the boat that sank?
The what?
Stephen Skaggs' boat sank yesterday.
Yes, I heard that. That's that's a shame.
Whose boat?
Stephen Skaggs.
Oh, really? Funny, I saw him go down to the wharf and peek out off the tires. Yeah, it's terrible.
They hauled it out this morning.
I hope he got it into some fresh water quick.
Not with that engine.
No? No.
No.
What's it, a 250?
It's an inboard.
Tony, you on?
I'm on, I'm just setting up the live stream.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
Evening, Tony.
Hey,
Goodbye.
Joe. Thank you, Joe.
Can we make Joe an associate selectman?
Associate to the associate?
I'm not sure that's outlined in that charter, but we can look into it.
So did we get a cheat sheet from Kristen?
Yeah,
Is that today or?
yes.
I did not find it. I got only the standard agenda.
All right, hold on.
Let me just refresh my email.
I didn't see one on the motions, but I saw all the other backup information.
Yeah, I saw the same, Mark.
But it's fine. We can
Yeah.
we can go without them. We can make
Old
up.
school.
I dropped off a packet at Gene's house today, and he has the motions printed out.
Okay.
in the packet.
Yeah, I've got the motions. I can read those off and you guys
Alright.
can.
Okay. That's good. Okay, good. We're all here. We have a quorum. I'm going to open the Board of Selectmen's meeting on Wednesday, May 17th, 2023 at 6:30. I see that all three members of the board and the town administrator are present. Let's see. Before I read the opening comments, does any member have any comments they want to say before we get into this? Gene,
I have none.
Austin? I mean, Austin, Josh.
No, except it's Austin's birthday today.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of that. So yeah, happy birthday, Austin. All I want to say is Angela and John, they do such a great job on the little rotary down by the Coast Guard station. Every year they spend hours upon hours decorating that and collecting it. So I just wanted to pass along my kudos to them. They do a great job. We're lucky to have them. It's all volunteer too. So,
Really does look great.
yeah. So I think Angela is in charge, but she tells John what to do. So. Well, okay, opening comments. Let's go. 2023 resident parking stickers now available for purchase at Nahant.org. Parking stickers at $10 each. All outstanding bills must be paid to the town and a census must be completed. The compost area is open on Wednesdays and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 2023 resident parking stickers required. Visit the Public Works page at nahant.org for a full list of acceptable materials. Curbside leaf pickup on Mondays until May 22nd. Leaves must be in biodegradable bags only and at your curbside by 7 a.m. Visit the Public Works page for more information. Recycling of metal and white goods, TVs and computers last Saturday of each month until, October 28th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. behind the DPW garage on Flash Road. 2023 resident stickers are required. Visit the Public Works Department at nahant.org for acceptable materials. Certain fees may apply. Memorial Day Parade, Monday, May 29th, 2023, beginning at 9:30 a.m. Parade starts in front of the Veterans Memorial on Nahant Road. Full parade route can be found on the community calendar at nahant.org. There will be no delay in trash pickup on the week of Memorial Day, so we'll have trash pickup on Thursdays for one part of the town and Fridays on the other. Employment opportunities, paid part-time internship at Town Hall and DPW seasonal crew members. Visit the employment page at nahant.org for job descriptions and requirements. Our first of the year Nahant's Market by the Sea, formerly Nahant's Farmers Market, Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. at Flash Road. Park July 15th, August 19th, September 16th, and October 14th. If you'd like to become a vendor, please, you can find more information on our webpage at nahant.org or email ktaylor@nahant.org. Okay, we have new business, so I guess we have a little housekeeping to do on the Board of Selectmen reorganization. Do you have a motion for that, Gene?
Yes, I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Joshua Antrim as Vice Chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor?
Gene
Josh
Canty,
Henry,
aye.
aye. Josh Henry, aye.
Okay, is that it? Is that it on that, Gene? Oh, no, we have to appoint you. So Gene, Josh, did you make a motion to appoint as recording secretary?
I move that the Board of Selectmen appoint Gene Canty as recording secretary for the remainder of this selectman year or until the next town vote.
That works.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor?
Josh Henry, aye.
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. Okay, Gene, we have a vote to execute a one-year extension to the lease agreement with STC 6 Company for the cell tower at 198 Nahant Road.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to execute a one-year lease extension lease agreement with the STC 6 Company for the cell tower located at 198 Nahant Road, Nahant, Mass. 01908.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Tony, how many carriers are on that tower now? Do you know which ones they are?
I'm not sure what the total number of carriers are.
And we receive revenue from them also each year, don't we?
We do,
Mhm. Okay.
we do. I don't have the backup information with me here on that.
Not necessarily.
This is it's actually typically a longer lease period than a 1 year, but this came in kind of late. So we just decided, let's do an extension for a 1 year period, and then we'll do a full renegotiation next year.
Sounds good. Okay, we have a vote to approve a one-day liquor license to the American Legion.
Guys,
If
you
you-
wanna
We didn't
roll-
vote on that yet.
Oh, excuse me, yeah.
just did the discussion.
Any
So
more
go
discussion?
go ahead with the move. I think it's already been seconded, so go ahead with the roll call vote.
All those in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark
Josh
Cullen,
Henry, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. We have to vote a one-day liquor license to the American Legion, Post 215 from Monday, May 29th, 2023, from 12 PM to 6 PM for a Memorial Day reception. Gene?
I move to approve the all alcohol one-day liquor license to the American Legion Post 215 on Monday, May 29th, 2023, from 12 noon to 6 PM for a Memorial Day reception.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? This is our annual thing that we do. Tony, is there any possibility of getting a liquor license to the American Legion Post rather than doing these one-day things all the time?
It's on the call. Let's I know Josh has kind of a quick schedule tonight, so I would say Bob and I have talked about that at length. They're working on it. They're working with Steve Smith on getting all the right paperwork together for the appropriate. There's actually a veterans liquor license through the ABCC. So they're working on it. And this is they've committed to getting a long-term to avoid having to do these 1 days.
That sounds good. Okay.
This isn't something to push it, but this is going on about the 6th or 7th month we've been talking about this.
I'm sure they'll get together, as long as we're working on it and Bob's involved. I'm sure we'll be seeing it on our agenda soon.
Bob, you got a 30-second promo for the event?
Yeah, I'd just like to say Memorial Day, we're really excited about this. Actually, the parade is back to pre-pandemic levels. So it's going to be a bigger parade than we've had the last couple of years. So that's great. And yeah, absolutely invite the community back to the life-saving station to raise the flag back to full staff and enjoy the afternoon with catering and food and company of each other. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks for all you do. Appreciate it. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Sanford, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. We have a call firefighter to appoint, Gene?
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Kevin Phipps as a call firefighter with the Nahant Fire Department effective May 17th, 2023, which would be today.
Seconded.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Kevin is a Nahant resident. He's been a full-time fire lieutenant with the Lynn Fire Department. For 13 years, he's been with the fire department. He's also a Northeast Regional Technical Rescue Team and part of the Massachusetts Task Force 1 FEMA Urban Search and Rescue Team. He actually already went through a hiring process with us, a Corey check process, when we appointed him as a volunteer member of the emergency management team. So he is jumping on board with the call fire department as well.
That's great. It sounds like we have a good one here. So thanks a lot.
That's outstanding that we should be able to get this kind of experience to work with us.
I think the credit goes to Chief Antrim. He knows the importance of, refilling that roster sheet on the call department. So he's doing a great job recruiting.
Yeah, this is outstanding.
Yeah, well, I think Austin does receive, should receive a lot of credit because these professionals that he's recruiting know about Austin, know his background, know his commitment, and are willing to work with him. So thank you, Austin. Thank you, Chief.
Exactly.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Sanford, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. We have some union contracts to approve for the fire department and DPW. Gene?
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the contract between the town of Nahant and the Nahant Firefighters Association, IFAFF Local 2718, from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion, Tony?
Thank you, Board of Selectmen, for making the motion. We've been going through negotiations with the fire department, police department, and the DPW. We've come to an agreement on the fire department contract here, and very proud of this contract and very pleased and appreciative of the support from the fire union. We really work together, understanding, where both sides of the table are coming from and what the town's, financial status is, and the hard work that the fire department, puts in and day out. This contract is a 2.5%. It's a 2.5, 3. It's a 3-year contract, and those are the COLA adjustments on each year: 2.5%, 2.5%, and a 2%, with a little bit of extra other things in there related to education incentive and training incentives and things of that nature that provide value to the town. So I want to thank Nick Papagalis, the union president for local 2718, and Matt Canty, who was in those meetings with him as well. We really were. It was an enjoyable experience. We worked well together negotiating this contract.
Good job, Tony. I know how difficult they can be sometimes, and I appreciate the fire department and the public works for coming together and coming to an agreement. But I'm sure that the police department will be on our agenda soon, hopefully. So any further discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to thank Tony and, oh, I'm sorry, G, go ahead.
No, just to say it was certainly well earned. It's a great department.
Yeah, absolutely. And, thanks, Tony, for your work. And I know it's a complex process. And thanks to Allison for her contributions as well. Yeah, well done. Thank you.
Definitely. Thanks for mentioning Allison. She was a integral part of, working out the numbers.
Yeah, and obviously thanks to the union for cooperating with you.
Great. Sounds like a win-win. Okay, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye.
Mark Cullen and I. Gene, we have a vote to buy back one cremation lot on the southeast quadrant of the Greenlawn Cemetery.
Before you jump to that, Mr. Chairman, that was the motion just for the firefighters contract. Now we're going to do
Oh, I
it
thought,
for the DPW and clerical.
okay,
Okay, I've got that. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the contract between the town of Nahant and the Nahant Public Works and Administrative Employees Local 2610 from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2026.
Seconded.
motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion on the motion?
Similar remarks. Worked with Union President Keith Olbash and Mary Lowe representing the clerical portion of this contract at the town hall. Keith representing the DPW. Again, very, very cooperative and we worked really well together negotiating this contract. And Allison helping again in the background with understanding what the financial constraints are of the town and the well-deserved contract for this union. And again, it also is a 3-year contract with a 2% COLA increase on each year.
Was there, Tony, was there something relative to clerical union contracts?
This is part of it. The
Same.
clerical union is within the same DPW contract.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to be sure.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion on motion?
Just the same thanks for the folks for making this work out on both sides.
Hey, like the fire department, DPW, well earned.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And the clerical staff too at the town hall, both unions, full of dedicated employees to the town of Nahant, really work really, really hard and well deserved.
Absolutely.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Antrim,
Mark Cullen and I. Okay, we have a cemetery plot, a cremation plot to buy back. Gene, do you have a motion for that?
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the request to buy back the presented cremation lot located in the southeast quadrant of Greenlawn Cemetery for the original purchase price of $375 that was previously sold to Christopher Anderson.
seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? This typically happens by general law. The town can only purchase back a lot for the price it was asking for. So people can't like speculate and buy a lot and then 10 years from try to get more for that can't happen. So I would encourage anyone else out there that may have a lot that they don't expect to be using, or if they know a family that has lots that probably are going to go unused, you should contact the town, and the town would work with you in reimbursing you for the cost of those lots. At some point, we will get a little shot on them, and there are a lot of lots out there that just won't be used. People pass on, families move out of town, and there are just a number of vacant lots that won't be ever used. So we'd like to try to get them back, so that people who do need them will be able to. So, any further discussion on the motion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Josh Evermeyer.
Not Cullen and I. Okay, accept the donation from Reno Paisano for the Valley Road School building. Gene, go ahead.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to accept the donation of a sculpture from resident and artist Reno Pisano to be located at the Valley Road School Building, 41 Valley Road, Nahant, Mass.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah,
This is
I
a-
wanted to, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna introduce the topic, but this is a granite sculpture of relatively simple design, matching the granite of the cornerstones of Valley Road School. And probably Tony, you were about to announce that Julie is on the call, as well as Emily Potts. And maybe they could provide some more background. Is that where you're headed, Tony? Not to steal your thunder.
I would love for them to go next. I had another piece. I just wanted to bring Dan into the fold of the conversation and see what, I think it's certainly fine for the selectmen to accept the donation. There may still be another step in the process because the Valley Road School is actually under the control of the Historical Commission, so they may need to make a vote as well. I don't see any problem with that, but I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Sounds good. Well,
Emily or Julie, do you want to speak to this motion?
Sure. Thank you so much. Reno reached out to me back in February about this sculpture that he envisioned being at the community center because of the Gloucester granite that is used. That's also part of the community center building. And he designed it, he carved it with the intention of it being a part of that property, being one with the community center building. He's a remarkable man. He turned 100 in January, and he's just trying to settle all his plans, as he puts it, as he looks towards his future. But he's a remarkable sculptor and a great resident of Nahant, and it's something that he would dearly love to see, and I appreciate the town being welcoming on this.
Julie, Gene, I don't know if I missed it or not, but what is it a sculpture of?
It's not a sculpture of something. It represents something similar to a Celtic marker. So it's about 32 inches high, and he has carved a curved surface into one corner in the front, and then there's on the back of it, it's a rough carved surface. It's simply a marker to say, here you are finally here at the community center.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
so Reno has been, who's a local artist, has lived in town for well over probably 50 years from now. I grew up with his son, Robert. Spent many times in his studio, which is quite fascinating, down on Rosemary Road. Reno has donated quite a bit of sculptures to the public. throughout the Commonwealth, but he has one in Nahant at the Nahant Library. People want to look at. There were several in Lynn, the Lynn Historic Society. Thank you, Reno. I do think he has one Z in his name, not two, but
There's no Z's in his name.
yeah,
C-I-A-N-O.
right, exactly. Okay, well, great. Thank you. Thank you for putting this together. Appreciate it. Truly.
You're
And then
welcome, Emily.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would just like to say how much Reno wanted this to be given to the people of Nahant. He was just very generous with that. He really wanted it to be to all the people. He didn't want it to be have ownership by anyone. He's not looking for fame in this. He just wanted to give it to the people because they've been so great to him and he really likes this community.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Thanks, Emily. Any further discussion?
Just another thank you, you know, to Mr. Brazano and, you know, everyone that donates material goods and time, you know, to making Nahant such a wonderful community. So thank you, Mr. Brazano.
Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen and I.
Josh Antrimai.
And we can have the Historic Commission also adopt this at the next meeting, Tony. Okay, we have a presentation on the Nahant Sailing Program, the J24 program by a few people. Tony?
Yep, Mark Paddock is on the call. Mark, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, to start, I'll also introduce on our sailing program committee is Eric Curtin, who's needs to turn his mic on. He's also on the call. Eric, I think, is going to do the main presentation on it for a new program that we're very excited to try to implement this year. And we wanted to make sure everybody in town was happy with it. Eric, you want to go ahead with it? Or?
Sure. Everyone hear me?
Yep.
Yes. All right. So several months ago, we were approached by the Greater Lawrence Community Boating Program, a former NSP sailor, asking if we might be interested in having a J24, which is a 24-foot sailboat moored in our mooring area for shared use between Greater Lawrence and the Nahant Sailing Program. Mark and I brought that to the Sailing Program Committee. The committee approved it several months ago. We then brought the concept to Tony to get his advice. He reviewed it, referred us to Dan to develop documents and make sure that all of the legal parts of the program were tied up. Dan did develop documents. We have sent them to Greater Lawrence. Greater Lawrence has approved them and essentially agreed that they will use the identical documents, parallel documents to what Dan has suggested in terms of waivers. We seem to be at the point where we simply need a final approval. I can review the proposal in whatever detail you'd like, or be as brief as you would like. You can tell me, Tony, what you'd like me to do.
I think just overview of the proposal. For the selectmen, you should know that Dan, as Eric just mentioned, Dan has reviewed the proposal. We spoke with our insurance. We looked at, an agreement and developed an agreement that, covers the town and, and all parties involved appropriately. So as far as any concerns go with that, we're fully covered. And we got a good MOA in place. So Eric, I think, just I think if you could give kind of an overview of
Sure.
Of what this boat is going to allow, how it's going to morph, kind of take the current program into the next, what it's gonna allow for you guys to accomplish, I think that would
Sure.
be good.
Perfect. All right, so the Greater Lawrence Community Boating, if folks don't know the program, consists of about 120 children. They do sailing, kayaking, rowing, crew, canoeing, stand-up paddleboarding. They have a couple of J24s. They operate on the Merrimack River, and that's not appropriate sailing ground for a J24. So they would like to take one of them and relocate it to Nahant for the shared use of Greater Lawrence and the Nahant program. We envision that we would use it for cruising class and for adult sailing, also potentially for some team building among the instructors. They envision their use would be comprised of groups of 6 children coming with instructors. That would occur somewhere between 6 and 10 total trips for the summer. They also envision 8 trips for adults. The boat would be scheduled via a Google Calendar, so we could block out times that we have it for class. Greater Lawrence would then be able to book other times and come and use the boat. What they ask of Nahant is that we provide a mooring in the mooring area for the boat, a place to put a pram so that they can access the boat when they need to. That would fit nicely in the NSP square along the 420s. And they would, of course, need a parking permit, which we can provide so that their transportation van would be legal to park at the landing. In terms of the timing, they would bring the J24 down in late May. It would stay probably till late August. They would cover all of the insurance and liability. They would cover all of the maintenance for the boat. They will submit the event application that Dan has authored and have it approved before any of this occurs. And all participants, both NSP and Greater Lawrence, would sign the complimentary waivers that Dan has also authored. We would probably use the J24 for some staff training, some bonding before the season starts. As we go through our list of, what ifs, Greater Lawrence is responsible for any storm planning or hurricane planning, and we would of course assist as we could, but it's their responsibility. We will need to provide some instruction to our instructors because they have no experience with a boat of this type, but we're pretty comfortable with that. It's a boat that I owned for 11 years, a while back. So I'm pretty comfortable with, helping our instructors come up to speed on it. It's very similar to the roads that they've sailed for their entire lives, essentially. We do have a quote from Houghton Marine Services for a mooring for the boat. And Joe will place that mooring as soon as we have approval from the town, and we'll just get that done. If that is not prepared in time because it's getting a little close to the end of May, I do have a second mooring that has been fully serviced by Houghton Marine Services in the harbor that we could put the J24 on temporarily until Houghton Marine gets the correct mooring in. I guess just to review, the entire committee is in favor of this. I think that Dan is satisfied with the documents and the process, and I think, Tony, I think you're satisfied with the process at this point. We think it's a positive thing to try for the program. And we'd like to see how it works and then consider it for future years as well, if Greater Lawrence still wants to do it.
Thanks,
Is-
Eric.
Add a couple
this-
things. Friends in the Nahant Sailing will be funding the mooring. It's not going to be a town expense.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for pointing that out, Mark. It's a great I think it's a great opportunity. I mean, it's a win-win. It's great for the Greater Lawrence group. They get a chance to sail on the ocean. And it's a great opportunity for Nahant Sailing Program. We get a free J24, which is, as you pointed out, Eric, great opportunity. It's just perfect.
Will this be open to Nahant residents or just Greater Lawrence?
It will
Nahant
be
Sailing
open.
Program, Nahant Sailing Program would administer its use in Nahant. So you can't just like say, hey, I'm Josh Antrim and I want to take a J24 out for sale. Yeah, it's well, maybe you could in my case. I don't know. No, that's a joke. Yeah.
But Gene,
So
we
the
do
sailing
offer
program is
Yeah.
administering its use in Nahant.
And we do have adult sailing on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, and we anticipate the Thursday night group would be the one, would have people that would be quite interested in this. So anybody in Nahant can sign up for the adult sailing. And we, just to give a little push there are, part of it is for people that want to learn how to sail. We have a number of Nahanters that come every year because they don't have a boat or their spouse doesn't want a boat and enjoy getting out once a week on one of the different boats. And this will give them a new one to be able to go out on.
Great, thanks, Mike.
So Gene, the answer is yes, under the umbrella of the sailing program. Nahant residents through the sailing program can have access to usage of the boat.
Okay, thank you, Mark,
Great,
and I appreciate it. I do support this. I think it's a great opportunity. If I recall, doesn't Jed Kaler, an old Nahant resident, run that allowance program?
Yeah, his father did before him, who was still a Nahant resident. So
Yeah,
Peter.
he's still a Nahant resident. So I knew there was a connection.
Dad was in our sailing program when he was a kid.
Yeah, good kid. They've been running that program, I know, in Lawrence for decades.
Yeah.
So thank you to the Kaler family in coordinating this with you guys. Have you touched base with the Waffinger and the harbor master on this?
Yes, I spoke with Rob several times. We are coordinating a space that he's happy with for the mooring. He, I won't speak for him, but he, voiced no objections to me when we spoke about it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric. Do we have a motion on this, Gene?
There isn't one in the backup documents. Dan, do you have would you have
there's no motion needed. We designed this after our little house events back before Tony's time when Dunkin' Donuts had that. Actually, Tony, you made them really early on at this time. So rather than a contract or MOU, we decided to run this as special events because there's only, as Mark said, about 14 at most. So it's not an ongoing thing in terms of the Lawrence, Greater Lawrence boat sailing. So there's no vote to be taken. It's really just a review of what's to happen, so you guys know and aren't surprised going forward.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you guys on the wharf this year.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, ongoing business. We have a vote to
Ongoing, okay.
a vote to approve a change in operating hours from Sunday from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. to 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. for the Atlantic Function Corp. DBA Ocean View. You have a motion for that, Gene?
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the change in operating hours on Sundays from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. and from 10 a.m. to 12 a.m.
Second.
I got that wrong. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the change in operating hours on Sundays from 12 PM to 12 AM to 10 AM to 12 AM for the Atlantic Function Group, DBA Ocean View, 0 Willow Road, Nahant, Mass. 01908.
Seconded.
Motion made, and seconded, a discussion. Okay, so this seems to have been revised from our last meeting. Tony, can you explain this?
Yes, we have Mike Gallant from Ocean Views on the call. I know a lot of residents are from the neighborhood are on the call as well. We brought this up last meeting and the board asked that we kind of table it for a couple of weeks because of the change in the hours. Originally, the request was to add 2 hours earlier on Sundays, so going from noon to 10 AM opening, and adding an extra hour at the end of the day on Sunday from midnight to 1 AM. Since that meeting, Mr. Gallant has amended his request and is no longer asking for the extra hour on the end of his operating hours on Sunday. So maintaining his midnight finish of operating hours on Sunday. And he's still seeking an approval for amending his start time to 10 AM on Sundays. So I would, I think, hearing from Mr. Gallant and then, giving an opportunity for the residents to maybe speak as well would be a good way to go through this one.
Okay.
Unless if any members of the Board of Selectmen obviously want to speak first.
Well, I'm sure we will, but Mike, I'll let you go first, and then any people, any residents who want to speak, we should open up to them afterwards, Tony.
Yeah, and thank you all. Just want to reiterate the communication from Tony in clarifying that we are not seeking an extension of our closing time. We are looking to simply have a 10 AM start time for alcohol to be able to be served. We've seen that since COVID, we've seen a little bit more of interest in what we call mini monies or micro weddings. And these are taking the place of a undesirable time slot, that being Sunday mornings. We've already been engaging in some of these Sunday morning elopements and mini monies. So we're accustomed to servicing couples during that time period. We now just want to be able to offer our couples a glass of champagne or a mimosa upon arrival. We're not looking to extend anything on the backside. And we are hoping that our location, our track record, and the continued presence of a police detail during any time we are open would deem this request favorable.
Thank you, Mike. I don't, Gene.
Hey, sorry, can I, sorry, I just want to interrupt for 1 second. Unfortunately, I have to leave my computer and I'm switching to my phone. So bad timing, I know, but I will be on the phone. Bye.
All right. Gene, would you prefer to have any comments, express any comments now, or wait until we listen to the public?
I'd like to hear what the public has to say on it. I think that, yeah, I guess I'm okay with the 10 o'clock hour in the AM. And I was happy to see that Mike changed the 1 o'clock to a 12 o'clock closing time. I thought that was caring for the neighbors in that area.
Yeah, I did appreciate that accommodation also. Tony, could you coordinate the public's access to this?
Sure. If you'd like to speak, if you can, Yep, just raise your hand, and what I'll do is I'll call on you by calling the title of your screen.
It's,
Nancy, it looks like you're ready to go first. Just say your name and your your address.
Mhm.
Nancy Nicosia, 42 Willow Road. My question to Michael is, who would be attending this earlier opening 2 hours earlier? Because residents here, in speaking with many of them, are very concerned that the earlier hour is so that we can now accommodate more functions in a day. So rather than, let's say, for example, 2, there can now be 3 functions accommodated now that we're backing the start time up by 2 hours. And that is a concern. There's a lot of vehicles, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of speeding, and we really hope that there is not going to be 3 functions in a day. Question?
Why don't we, Mike, before you go, what I'll do is, why don't we let the residents, all the residents kind of speak? Mike, I don't know if you got a pencil and paper there.
I'm writing.
Got some notes, and then
Yes.
we'll come to you at the end to respond, okay?
Yes.
Nancy, if that's okay with you,
Sure.
we'll have Mike respond at the end.
Of course, yep.
Thank you. Ann, I see your hand up. Could you just say your name and address?
My name is Ann Bromer. I live at 29 Willow Road. I'd first like to make a little announcement that when the sailing program was being talked about, I looked out the window, and for the first time this season, the adult ducks were out with their babies. And I just thought, that's a lovely thing on this windy, cold night. And there they were. There were at least about 12, 15 of them. They came up on shore. And that's part of what makes this such a magical place. And Sunday morning is a magical time. It is traditionally the day of rest. Many of us go out in the summer with our newspapers and sit on our decks if we're lucky enough to have them. And to hear music all of a sudden coming from down the street at 10 a.m. in the morning just seems incongruous with what it's all about. It's one thing, Michael, if you wanted to open it up and have a restaurant the way you did during the pandemic. We have no cafe in this entire town for people to even get a donut. Dunkin' Donuts closed, Captain's is not serving breakfast. We don't have anything like that. We as the town are very, very good to you, very, very generous to you. You've grown your business. Many of us are very happy that you have such a successful business. But why don't you give back, open a restaurant, you can still make money, and it serves the community. Instead of huge buses coming down, more limos, music, morning, noon, and night, I have felt very happy for the last 2 weeks. For some reason, there hasn't been that kind of blasting music all the time when there is nothing going on. That should always happen. There shouldn't be music unless something is going on, so the rest of us can have peace and quiet and rest here.
Yep.
So that's what I ask. I would be against opening at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning for you to have another function. I would not be against it if you opened at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning to have a little cafe for the benefit of people who wanted to use it and pay for that service.
Agree, Ann. Yep.
All right, thank you, Ann. Any other resident want to have any comments or questions? Just raise your hand. All right, I don't see any. So Mike, if, I mean, it sounds like a question about the functions that you're going to be hosting there on Sundays. You care to comment on that?
Sure, absolutely. And, thank you, Ann, and thank you, Nancy. Just to clarify the the questioning of function count, it would be impossible for us to do anything more than 2 functions in a day. Just the sheer logistics of moving people, cleaning a room, having cleaning crews, resetting for different size functions from small to large or medium. So the economics of being able to do 3 functions would not be a possibility. I think it's important to look at this as not asking for a water faucet to be turned on and something changing drastically with this approval. We've been indeed doing mini monies with micro weddings and elopements and vow renewals, for quite some time, needing to prove whether or not this would be viable. So even with an approval of 10 a.m., many of you would notice little to zero change at all, because this has indeed been the practice for some time. I think it's also important to note that the golf course across the street has activity much earlier than even 10 a.m. and a liquor license that also is at 10 a.m. Outside of that, the sentiments of keeping Nahant magical also echo to me as well. And that's extremely, extremely important to myself and the way that the neighbors interpret our desire to keep Nahant magical. So if there are other elements and feedback from our operation or our guests, I'd be more than happy to, to meet with both of you, because those sentiments are important to me as I conduct business in town. I'm thinking the location, our track record, very little changing with this permissibility, us not looking to extend and go later and serve shots late, but us, again, being able to offer an accommodation very familiar to a brunch vibe. Mimosa, a glass of champagne is important to that early arrival. It's also ironic to note that a lot of those functions are showers that we put in that time slot. So that's another type of, not just a wedding, but also a shower. And when it is a wedding, it's usually the accommodation for bride or bridal party that is arriving that early, because they may be putting on finishing touches before they actually have a ceremony that might start at 10:30 or 11 o'clock. So again, I think the level of disruption would be unnoticed as we've proven this concept out, hence our request for this time change accommodation.
Mike, I got a question. You currently close every night at 12 o'clock now?
Our current time is 1 a.m. Through, except for Sunday. Sunday is 12.
Right, okay. And you did know the Kelly Greens is Monday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m., correct? I think it is, Tony.
Kelly Greens is 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. every day of the week.
Right.
That's their liquor license.
Right.
So I think there's, what Mike is trying to explain here is what he's amending is his liquor license. It's not so much, the activity's occurring already. He just hasn't been able to offer any alcoholic beverages until noon on Sundays with his current liquor license.
Okay.
Hey, this is Josh on the phone. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to ask Mike Gallant to make sure we understood that correctly, that you are currently operating during those hours, but don't have the liquor license until noon. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thanks. And I think Ann Brommer raised an interesting question about would a Sunday brunch be a viable business opportunity for you on those occasions when you didn't have an event scheduled? Is that something you've thought about, or?
We've certainly entertained these all scenarios like this, Josh, in the past. What makes it a little challenging for us are the economics, given we're not a restaurant where we have other, takeout or, other facets supporting our operation. Anytime we're going to be open, we have to bring in a dishwasher, bring in, a chef, bring in, kitchen staff, servers. So it makes it very difficult for us to, service in a very boutique fashion, given we're not set up to operate that way.
Okay, thanks for that. And it's good to hear or good to know that you are operating during those hours, but just don't have the liquor license during those hours. That's an important distinction, I think, for us to understand. So thanks.
Thank you, Josh. I think it's also worth noting that this is an undesirable time slot. So it is, it's not like a prime time Saturday night where if we looked at a calendar, we could, count on, most of the summer Saturday nights being booked. We're still looking at a 10 a.m. start time, for a wedding or an elopement or a shower. So you can fathom that that's not the most prime time slot of the week. And I mention that just because the volume even on those Sunday mornings is significantly less, even with what we're already doing and even with what an approval of the liquor serving time would do. It's still the lower volume day of the week, or time slot of the week.
Can I ask a question? Can I speak again?
Go ahead. Yes, you can.
A couple of things. One, during the pandemic, you did have a cafe set up that was public and people could access it. So you must have had a chef and all the equipment. You served food during all of your functions. So why would that be any harder to do that, to consider this as a service that's needed in the town that you have the capacity to do? One, for you to think that through. And the second thing is, if you do this with the alcohol, can you please not do the music from 10 to 12, that we don't have blasting music. And so those of us who want to have a little peace on Sunday morning can have that. It's enough that we have the buses. Some of them I have to actually go out on the street and ask them to move up so that they don't park in front of my driveway. And the limos, but the music, please, can you please do that? To just consider the people who live around this. And not only am I'm the closest, I understand, but Nancy and Bill are very close as well. But up and down the street, people have been bothered by this. And even across the wharf area, people can hear the music and have said something in conversation. And I ask you to please consider that.
Hey, Mike, Gene, typically, what would the schedule be like between 10 and 12 o'clock? What would occur? What would happen? What would not be disruptive?
It depends on the type of function. Occasionally there's a shower. If it is a wedding, the bride and bridesmaids may be putting on, finishing touches before a ceremony. We may start a ceremony at 10:30 in the morning, and have a cocktail hour that would start at 11 o'clock. So that's the typical fashion. And, in terms of, addressing any sentiments, we feel privileged to be in the community. Many of, my wife and I, we're very active and, with our business, we pour a lot of heart and soul into it. And it's not just about generating activity for brides. It is about, having happy neighbors. We try to communicate with all of the neighbors when we get a chance to see them. I know that in the past, we've even placed handwritten letters in mailboxes of neighbors, indicating if there's ever any concerns to please reach out to me directly. Some of the neighbors I know, I've shared my cell phone with, and, I encourage any type of feedback. We want to be an A+ business in the community. So hearing sentiments like this absolutely will, invoke an additional communication. And Nancy, if that is okay with you, offline.
Yeah, but Michael, I'm sorry. To say what you just said is not to appreciate fully that actually you tried to make the house in a residential neighborhood next to me into a place for brides to get dressed. I had to hire an attorney for several $1,000s to stop that. And so I appreciate what you've done, but you know, good guy, bad guy here. There was one time when civil conversation did not work and we had to go to the line of hiring a lawyer. So
And I just don't, I want to try and stay on
yeah,
topic.
I know, but he raised that. He raised about how he always does for what's best for the community. He raised that, Tony. I did not raise that.
I just want to
He
stay,
raised that, and I wanted to say that that isn't always true.
well,
I wish it wasn't so. Okay.
okay. I just want to stay on topic that we're discussing a liquor license, hour change, and no other activity related to any other property. So, but it sounds like, Mike, we're hearing from the neighbors that there's, you know, some concern about noise, some concern about traffic. Those are outside of the liquor license discussion. Let's not ignore them, and maybe we can follow up with the residents about those issues another time, or, you know, I can try to help coordinate some sort of conversation with that, or some sort of like neighborhood meeting or something. If you're willing to do so.
I would love that. Absolutely. I don't run or shy away from any communication.
Let's do a neighborhood brunch. How about that?
I would be happy to host the neighborhood brunch.
All right. Well, thank you for the residents for coming in. I'm glad, Gene, we postponed this vote last week to this week to hear from the neighbors. I have communicated with Nancy, Rob, and Ann about this offline. I hear their concerns. I do appreciate you, Mike, accommodating all of us by taking away the add-on on Sunday night. Appreciate that. And I think the thing that resonates with me is that we're not really changing anything other than allowing alcohol for those who drink it at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I can't imagine there's a whole bunch to happen between 10 and 12. We're not changing the function hours. We're not changing the number of weddings or events that you're having. All we're doing is authorizing the liquor license to be extended from 10 to 12. I personally don't have a problem with this. And I know, Ann, you have my number on my cell phone on speed dial, so you can call me at any time if there's an issue. And I think it would be really great, Mike, if you could either 2 or 3 times a year, maybe at the beginning of your season, maybe once in the middle of the season and once at the end of the season, just to host a neighborhood gathering to review what's been going on in those months and whether if improvements can be made. I'd be glad to attend those. I think would be very helpful.
Absolutely.
And you know, Mike, we'll speak with the lessees at the golf course, because you know, you aren't the only business at the end of that road, and so you shouldn't hold responsibility for every driver, you know, that goes down that street. They should be involved in those community meetings as well.
Yeah. It's a good point, Tony. I think that, you know, they have Mike and Kelly Green people and yourself and member of the board attend those meetings 2 or 3 times a year would be very helpful.
Love it. Very nice recommendation. We will absolutely put something together.
Okay. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing, hearing none, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
I don't know if we lost Josh or not.
Josh, Josh, if you're on the phone, I think you have to hit *6.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Josh Sanford, aye.
and Mark Cullen and I. Okay, thank you. Let's see.
Yep.
Get back to the agenda. We on the town administrator's report?
Okay, thank you. I want to give a quick update on the Coast Guard housing. I know it's been some time since the town meeting voted to approve the next step on that process. The town has been, working to get prepared for a demolition and hazardous material removal bid process on the Coast Guard housing. There were 12, there are 12 properties. There were 12 tenants. There are now only 3. Town worked with many of those residents that are no longer there and, going through a legal process with the remaining tenants. But there are 9 vacant properties that we have hired a hazardous material consultant to investigate any hazardous material in those in the construction materials of those units. The units were built by the military, so it's extremely important that we go through this process and that we make sure we remove all that hazardous material before we go through any sort of demolition process. There's also underground oil tanks for the heating units of each of these units that we're going to need to remove as well. So, of course, if there's when we go through that process, we want to make sure that we have the right contractors on contract with the town and on site during the removal and during the demolition to ensure that we do the job properly. So I'm happy to report that all 9 of those units have been inspected. We have a full description of what is involved in each one of those units. All of that information will be added into an RFP that we should be putting out in early to mid-June. And that RFP or request for proposals will be to solicit companies to bid on the job to actually remove the hazardous material and demolish the homes that are vacant in coordination with the vote that was voted on at town meeting. So that process will likely be a 2-week bid process. So we should be opening bids by the end of June, and hopefully, the winning contractor will have the ability to move to mobilize and start that project shortly thereafter. We get through a contract phase. So we're making progress. I know it seems like we aren't because the houses are still there, but there's a lot of work that's been involved. Additionally to the hazardous material and the demolition, we're going to be including in the scope moving the shutoff valves for the water service lines from inside the property line to the right of way. So that's in the proper spot once we sell these properties. We worked with National Grid with their gas main work to make sure that they're prepared for individual service lines to be installed in the future. So it's been a complex process, but we're very close to taking the next step and putting the bid on the street for proposals for the demo.
Thank you, Tony. And I see we have the housing plan. So I think that's the housing production plan that you have on the agenda next. I think it's important. I've been seeing on social media that there's people are confusing what's going on with Coast Guard housing and the housing production plan and what's the relation between the two. And I think it's probably too early to really talk about that. I can tell you as one member of the Board of Selectmen, I certainly intend to honor the town meeting vote to raise the buildings and to sell property in order to pay off the debt. Whether there's an opportunity down the line to look at through the housing production plan for some other options, that's a possibility. But I think it's too early at this point to really make that sort of call. We need to go through the production plan, the housing production plan. Committee is chaired by Michelle, who's on, and I'll let her speak in a minute, but we've been going through a lot of meetings, identifying areas in town where affordable housing may be appropriate, prioritizing them and creating criteria and working with our consultants on that. But I do want to say that at least as one member of the Board of Selectmen, I do intend to honor the town meeting vote, which I interpret it to be to sell lots in order to pay off the debt. So I look forward to doing that. And as we work through the housing production plan, we'll see if there's a relationship with some other parts of that property that could be productive. So with that, I know, Michelle, we have some community events coming up around the housing production plan. Do you want to talk about them?
Sure. Thanks, Mark. And again, thank you for the opportunity, and I certainly support your comments tonight. We have a couple events coming up. On June 15th, we will be having a second community engagement at Town Hall, where we're inviting the community to come in and meet with us so we can talk about the goals and the strategies that are being considered for the housing production plan. We've been working through a list of proposed sites, and we're at that time, we want to be able to share that information with the community and certainly welcome their feedback. Leading up to that community event, we are going to be hosting a virtual open house survey where the community will be able to review the strategies and recommendations in advance, provide their commentary in an anonymous survey fashion, as well as look at a map of the town and the proposed sites and be able to literally pinpoint each site and tell us your comments or feedback in terms of applicability, viability. There'll be different criteria. So again, we've been working the last almost now 6+ months with the Massachusetts Area Planning Council on, developing this plan. Our hope is to have it ready, in the next few months to be prepared for town meeting in 2024. And then again, support that along with the work that we're doing that we'll be running shortly right after the plan for 3A MBTA communities.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. I don't know, anything else on that, Tony, Jean, or Josh? Any questions?
If I could, Mark, I think Michelle's got in that committee have a lot going on. I was just making some notes. And along with the affordable housing needs in all communities, I'm looking at what we're facing here in town with short-term rentals, with Coast Guard housing, with MBTA, with 2 committees working at one time right now. And I think people should understand and appreciate the effort that we and you guys are making to get this all together. This is a large task sitting out there in front of us.
If I can add to it, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, John.
I think that affordable housing and discussing it and planning for it, it can be a scary, topic of discussion for folks, and it can be concerning about how that could potentially change neighborhoods and things of that nature. And I want folks, we're encouraging residents to get involved in this process. The town has requirements for affordable housing and requirements for multifamily zoning placed upon it by the state. And the town is currently not compliant with either of those requirements. We don't have any urgent threat of an unfriendly 40B affordable housing development on us today. But because we are not compliant with the Chapter 40B law, an unfriendly development could come into town and surpass certain elements of our zoning, and we'd have a very difficult time, trying to, curtail or prevent, that development in accordance with the town's desires. And so when you're dealing with the state in that type of situation, having a housing production plan puts you in a much better position to handle that sort of situation. And that's what the subcommittee is working to develop. So, they're not currently, their job isn't to figure out a location in town to build a bunch of housing tomorrow. What they're looking to do is put together a production plan that takes in the, considerations of the town, not only the requirements put upon us by the state, but also and mostly the needs of our town. There is significant needs of affordable housing in our community that isn't affordable. The definition of affordable may not be what you think it is. Housing costs have skyrocketed, and so there are teachers, policemen, firemen, blue collar workforce type residents in town that would qualify for that type of housing. So we really, really want to encourage the community, to come together and, join the subcommittee meetings and get involved in this planning process so that we can put together a document that can be submitted to the state, approved by the state, and show that we are, taking this issue seriously. And it will put us in a better position to control the fate of the community in, the subject of housing. So, that's my 10,000 foot level speech. If you're hearing about it, if you're reading about it in the news or on social media or in committee meetings, join the meeting and try to participate as much as you can. We really want to encourage, the residents to get involved early and often.
Tony, because it's often asked, the state established number for affordable housing is what, 10%?
Yes.
And we're at
2.
Less than 3, 2 something, 2.7 or something, 2.6. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
There are other thresholds that we can get into later, but people who are interested in this subject, as Tony said, need to get involved in our meetings. Part of our objective for the Housing Production Plan Committee is to educate people in town what our needs are, how those needs could possibly be addressed, and why it's important for us to put this plan together. So there are many components to it. The percentage is one of them, Gene, but there are other thresholds that can be looked at also. But with that said, go ahead, Gene.
I was just gonna say it's you really have to try not to jump to the solution on this topic. There's so many different elements. There's so many different considerations. You really have to work through this production plan process. And that's what the committee's doing is actually, slow walking through the process with the experts from MAPC. There is, you really can't rush to how do we meet the requirement and be done with this? You can't really approach it that way. You got to work through it. So that's why, and I don't want to get into the details on this meeting. That's why you have the subcommittee meeting. I just want to, some people pay attention here, may not pay attention there. And, I want to use the opportunity to encourage people to join those meetings and get involved.
Yeah, I didn't mean to open this up this wide, but it was just a moment, but I was just sitting there thinking out loud. So,
yep.
So, but I think Mark is right. This is a big project.
Yeah. And, pick up any newspaper any day of the week and you can read how other communities are going through it. I think there were 2 editorials, op-ed page articles in the Boston Globe today with other communities that are going through the exact same process.
Right.
And it's not just Nahant, it's every community in the Commonwealth. So we need to do better, and we can do better. As Tony said, I think the affordable guidelines established in the greater metropolitan area would qualify 40% of the current town residents to be qualified for affordable housing, 40%. So it shows you that who this addresses and who it impacts. Okay, let's see, preserving East Point. Josh, I don't know if you're on. I don't think there's much to update on that.
Josh had to jump off.
Okay, yeah, I can take it. There's been no developments. There's some depositions coming up in the next couple of weeks. Other than that, we're still going through discovery process. Town administrators report.
Really I really want to take the opportunity to encourage folks to come to town meeting this Saturday. It starts at 12:30 at the town hall. We have very important business to take on, and there are many articles. We've had I've done a couple info sessions the last 2 Mondays. They weren't well attended, so I'm a little nervous about making sure we get quorum so that we can conduct the mandatory business of the town. So I'll put a code red call out tomorrow or Friday. I also have I'll be hosting office hours from 10 a.m. to noon on Friday. So if anybody has any last minute questions or want to just talk about any articles that are on the warrant, please come to the town hall. I'm happy to sit down and speak with you about that. I guess, really want to encourage folks, please come to town meeting this weekend, Saturday. I'm putting the over under at 2 hours. I think we can get through this meeting fairly quickly. Please join us. I also just wanted to mention, the following week, Memorial Day will be, as we talked about earlier, a big, Memorial Day parade's a big one for us. Very excited. It's the start of the season. I know that the Memorial Day Committee is still looking for some volunteers to help with the parade. So if you are available, if you're willing to help out, please reach out to the town hall. You can call, you can email Kristen at ktaylor@nahant.org, or you can call the Legion, or we can put you in touch with Ed Manzano, the chairman of the Memorial Day Committee. they're really hoping to pick up another, 3-4 people to help with the Memorial Day parade. Bob, did you want to add to that?
Oh, as always, Tony, you did a fantastic job. It's really fun to be out there and help. It's great. So if we get a few more bodies to help with parade marshals is really what it's about, for helping direct the participants where they need to go. And again, we really hope people come down. It's a town reception. It's not American Legion reception back at the life-saving station. We have, a great, service at the cemetery, but there's also, the raising of the holiday colors back at the station and then that reception. So there will be food. We invite you all to come down. But yeah, no, we're excited about it too, Tony. And so glad for the sound system at the cemetery last year. We're hoping to have one at the wharf this year so people can hear all of the important words that are said. And I'd just like to throw out, remember, Flag Day is coming up June 14th. So if you have flags that need to be retired that are no longer serviceable, you can drop those off down at the life-saving station at the back door. And we're happy to retire those for you on Friday, June 16th, which we would invite you to that service as well. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Tony?
That's good for me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have citizen forum.
All right, Francine, you know the drill. Announce your name and address.
Thank you. Francine Amari Faulkner, 295 Nahant Road. I got several questions here. Tony, one was from the last meeting. You were going to check on what was the outcome with the cameras with the USDA? What did you find out about that?
I did not check in on that. What did you want from that, Francine? Can you remind me?
Wanted to know what the outcome was with having put the cameras there and, what was determined.
Okay.
They were then removed, so there was clearly a point, what was the outcome? Okay, and Tony, I mean, if you could even email me, that would be great.
Okay.
Second thing is, what is the understanding of the town if you want to take action to kill a coyote under the current permit? What's the understanding?
All right, what else do you have, Francine? Keep going.
So you want to just get back to me on that one too?
I'll just want to get all of your comments. We've addressed that one multiple times. I'd rather not take up a lot of time on that again.
Well, I don't think it's
once you-
clear. It's not clear based on the permit that's existing right now, because as we talked about, that permit is not valid, and that's, so I don't know what the town's intention is. If you want to take action, what are the steps what's the plan for how the steps are going to be followed?
Tony, I would simply say the plans will be the same as they've always been. I mean, if we run into a situation where it's clear that we have a habituated aggressive coyote, we'll work with Mass Wildlife and we'll go from there as we did last time.
So, Mark, will there be definite steps taken, and will you guys be transparent about that at a Board of Selectmen meeting, or how will this move forward?
I think Tony's been all transparent through this whole process. I don't believe any community could be more transparent than we've been over the past few years regarding this subject. So, I mean, as things develop, we will let the town know.
Okay. Other question, what's the plan for the follow-up on the food source on Breezy Hill? How was that kind of left?
In my email to you, I said I would get you information once you provided more information to the town. So right now we have an email from you saying that there is a food source on Breezy Hill Terrace and that it's been caught on camera. That's all I have. I don't have an address. I don't have pictures. I don't have much to work with. So if you could get us more information, we will then move from there.
All right, because Tony, as I understood it, I got back to you and said, if you don't get the information, let me know and I'll follow up on that. So, all right, so we'll take that privately offline, but then what I'm trying to understand is what's the protocol for people going forward? Will the town then take the information, investigate it, and then follow up with a fine or confront the person, or how is that going to be handled?
Well, this weekend, at town meeting, there's a wildlife feeding bylaw being voted on. So certainly once that gets voted on, should it pass, the AG has to approve it. But once that becomes part of our bylaws, it's going to, I guess, answer your question more. It's hard, it's hard to really answer your question. I guess today, if we have a food source, we're investigating it and we're speaking with the resident and educating them as to why they need to clean it up and the importance of that. And we've had very cooperative residents to this point. If we ever found, we really haven't found much in the investigations that we've done. But if the bylaw passes and we were to interact with a uncooperative resident, we would have the ability to issue them some sort of fine, a violation.
So will it be the animal control officer that'll follow up, or will it be, the police? I mean, what's kind of how will that be executed?
It could be the animal control officer, it could be our public health agent. It falls under the police bylaws, so it could be could come from the police station.
Okay. All right. And lastly, I just want to take a second on Saturday, we're going to have a table from 10:30 to 12 on the sidewalk, Coyote tips, tools, and hazing. So people can come by. We can help them if they want to come by with their dog. Sorry, one of my birds, I have birds, they're all rescues, and one of them is going nuts because he hears me talking. Sorry about the noise. Anyway, so if people want to come by, especially if they have a small dog, we can tie a piece of Mylar ribbon on the leash for them midway up. That's an easy coyote deterrent. We're happy to provide that. Plus, I've got some other materials, and there's going to be several of us there. Be a great little quick drop by, and if you want to know how to haze, we're happy to show you that. So that's going to be Saturday morning before town meeting from 10:30 to 12. Easy, quick drop by.
Thank you,
Okay.
Francie. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for putting that together.
It's not just me. There's several people helping with it too. So
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And to the others that are helping you out. Any other residents have any questions or comments for Citizens Forum? Please just raise your hand. All right, I'm not seeing anything else. Oh,
Hello,
yes.
Go ahead, Al.
am I too late?
No, go ahead. Just say your
Hi.
name and address.
Yep, Terry Collins, 22 Breezy Hill Terrace. I just want to comment on the Breezy Hill thing because we had a dog attacked up there a while ago. And we have a lot of very conscious dog owners up there right now, and I've never seen a problem with coyotes. We're all pretty good at like not feeding anything anymore. I love birds, but we don't feed them anymore up there. My neighbors are very conscious of the coyote situation. So I just want to add that because Breezy Hill was talked about.
Yep, thank you, Carrie.
Thanks.
We've been up there, we've taken a look, we've talked with residents, and you are spot on. We've definitely, all the residents there, extremely cooperative and understand the importance. So thanks for your comment.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
As you know, I'm up there every day, probably 2-3 times a day, so I concur. Okay, anything else, Tony?
That's all.
Okay, nothing else, no other business. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion for adjournment.
Seconded, all in favor?
Gene Canty, aye.
Mark Cullen, aye. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Go Celtics. You watching, Gene?
Yes.
All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow.